Hello, everybody. Mr. Foley here, and today we're talking about unemployment. Unemployment is a rough thing. I've never been unemployed. Happy about that, and I feel bad for those that are. So, unemployment is a situation where a person has no job, but they're willing to work. They want to work, but they just can't find it. And we have time periods where that happens. And during the coronavirus season, that's definitely a thing that we've seen is that a lot of jobs have been cut because there's less spending, and therefore, people can't find work. And so we're going to look at what unemployment is, how it's measured, and then the different types that you see, along with how do you file for unemployment benefits. So all those things. So I'm going to fill the notes in right with you, so you can have your notes ready, whether that's in paper form or whether that's online. And we're going to run through these. So here we go. If you're unemployed, it's a person who has no job and they're willing to work. And there's 3 conditions to be considered unemployed. Number 1, you have to be 16 or older. Now, most 16 and 17-year-olds and some 18-year-olds aren't considered unemployed because they're going to school. But you have to be at least 16 years old to be considered unemployed. The second one is you are willing to work. I'm not going to be considered unemployed if I'm not trying to find a job. I'd be called out of the labor force, not in the labor force. So my wife, for example, is a stay-at-home mom. She is not considered unemployed because she's chosen to stay out of the labor force. And then third, you are looking for a job but can't find one. And so you're putting applications in, you're trying to go to interviews, but people just simply aren't hiring you for whatever reason. So those are your 3 conditions: 16 or older, willing to work, looking for a job, but you can't find one. So how do we gauge this? There, no, you don't let me anymore. The unemployment rate gauges how our country's doing. And you take the number of people unemployed divided by the number of people that are willing to work, multiplied by 100, and you have your unemployment percentage. A high unemployment is bad. So if you have a high percentage, that means that many are not working. We saw this during the Great Depression, where we had, 25% of people were unemployed. We definitely do not want that. We're seeing a little bit higher unemployment now as well because of the coronavirus and the way that's impacted jobs. Low unemployment is good. It means there are very few people without jobs. That's what we want. So, good unemployment is around 4 to 5%. You actually don't want to go much lower than that, as weird as it sounds, because you want people to be available if companies need to expand. If companies need to expand and there's nobody available, that's not a good thing. So let's look at a few numbers to see what we're talking about. So first off, this is the last year in the United States. And you can see April 2020, this is where the coronavirus really hit us hard, which is crazy. We were going along at really low unemployment, 3.5 to 4.4%, which means that people are working, people can find jobs, which is a good thing. It's almost too low. Like I said, you want around 4 to 5%. And then, boom, coronavirus shutdowns. Companies don't need as many workers. People are being turned away. And we go up to 14.7%. That is a bad spot to be. You do not want 14.7%, because that means that there's more benefits being paid out by the government and there's less taxes coming in. And that's a tough spot to be in. As you can see, as some of the lockdowns have lifted, the number's gone down. And that's good. That's what we want. And hopefully that will continue to lower as we continue to go on. But we'll see what happens there. Now, I said the Great Depression had a pretty bad spike. And if you look at this, there's definitely a bad spike here. This time period right here was not fun in America. We have 17% right now, or we had up to 17%, which was the highest. But look at this, from 1931 to 1940, for 9 years, they had 15% or more. That's crazy. We've had high unemployment here for a couple months, and it's really hurt our country. And so the 30s was just a devastating time for Americans because there just weren't those jobs available. And a lot of people went hungry because of that. So let me clear off my drawing here, get out of that. So when we look back here, if we go to, your max timeline that they have, 1960 to 2020, you see there's a lot of fluctuation, a lot of up and down at different times because of various things happening in the world. We had the financial crisis right here, which led to this big uptick in unemployment. And then it progressively has gotten better and better and better. And then boom, we had this shift because of coronavirus. So right now, if you're watching this during, the coronavirus epidemic, you're in a very historical time for the United States. There's very few times that we have this kind of unemployment. So not that you want that, but it happens. And I can tell you right now, I know from this point right here, this is right when I got out of college, which wasn't a great time. It was really hard to find jobs. You had, for teaching positions, I know I applied in Hudson, and for 2 positions, there was like 200 plus applicants. Now, fast forward to here, all right? 2017, 2018, when Ellsworth was trying to hire some teachers, some of the positions were only getting 4 applicants. And so you have major differences in how many people are available with high unemployment versus low unemployment. Back to the notes. Okay, so there's 3 types of unemployment we'll talk about. The first one is frictional. With frictional, you're temporarily in between jobs, and it may be your choice or it may not be, depending on the situation. If you left a job and are looking for a new one, that's an example that would fit. Or just out of college. So you're kind of in this middle ground, and you're not choosing to be out of the labor, or you may be choosing to be out of the labor force, or it may be like you got out of college and now you're finding your own job. So you're temporarily in between. A lot of times people in this group don't receive unemployment benefits because it's somewhat their choice. Sometimes they do. Depends on the situation. Okay, the second one, structural. There's a changing economy, and technology makes workers' skills obsolete. So what we see here is you just simply don't need people anymore for some of these jobs. Examples would be jobs where machines have taken over. If you look at the car industry, we have robots making a lot of things now that people used to. That kind of thing. If you look at cashiers, we have a lot of self-check-ins now, so you don't have as many cashiers working, that kind of thing. Another example would be jobs. How would I fit this in? Let's see here. It's mainly that jobs are taken over by machines. Yeah, we'll stick with that for now. The next one, cyclical. Job loss because of a weak economy or recession. The country is struggling. Greatest example right now, job cuts with the coronavirus. There's just simply not as many jobs because people are dealing with this. So that would be one. Companies are struggling financially. Sometimes you have a situation where a company is just not doing very well. You have a bad economy. All companies aren't doing very well. Things like that. We saw this, the example I used to use before coronavirus was in the 2000s, we had a pretty harsh season for construction workers where there wasn't a market for new homes, and so they had a lot less jobs. So frictional, you're temporarily in between. Structural, you have a changing economy. The other one for structural I was going to put in here is jobs go overseas. So if we lose it to other countries. And then cyclical, there's just a bad economy. There's a recession, countries and companies are struggling. So those are your types of unemployment. Now, the government does some things to try to reduce unemployment. First off, they create business tax credits. And basically what this does is it pays a company more money or gives them a tax break if they hire more people. And so in this case, you may see companies deciding to hire people instead of mechanizing and having machines do things for them. So that's the first one. The second one would be tax cuts, cutting taxes. The thought process here is if you cut taxes, people have more money to spend, so they spend it more on businesses. And businesses have more money because more people are spending and they don't have to pay as much in taxes. And so all those things together lead to more money in the economy, which leads to more jobs. That's the thought process there. The third one on our list are federal and state job programs. And this is when the government hires people and puts them to work. In the Great Depression we talked about in the 30s, the government hired people for the Civilian Conservation Corps, and they planted a lot of the evergreen forests in our area. They hired them for the Works Progress Administration. And you basically had all these people out of work. The government hired them to build roads, to build bridges, to build schools, to build all kinds of stuff. The pool at Glen Park was created in the 30s from the WPA. So just basically the government is spending more money to put people to work because there's too many that don't have jobs. That's the thought process. Now, these are kind of controversial ideas. Some are in favor of them, some are not. The positive aspect of this, obviously, is that you have lower unemployment. And more people are working. And obviously we want more people working, that's good. The negative is this makes government expensive. And it largely leads to one of two things. It leads to more taxes or government debt. So some people love these programs because more people are working. Others are really concerned because it's expensive. The government has to pay for it, and there's more debt. So there's both sides of the coin, like everything else in life. Then the last category is collecting unemployment benefits. Let's say, for example, that you're out of work. Sorry about that. That's too bad. If you're out of work, how do you collect money from the government to help you out? And why does the government give you money? Well, when you work, part of your taxes go towards a government unemployment fund. And this money is used to help those who are unemployed. So every week, every 2 weeks when I get paid, part of my money goes to unemployment. And it's a fund. And then that money is used right now for people who are unemployed and are trying to find a job. Now, if I'm unemployed, same thing will happen for me. There'll be some government money available there to help me out. And the idea is we're going to provide some money for people who are unemployed so that they can keep going while they're looking for work. They can keep up with their rent or their house so they don't have to move out. They can keep up with maybe car payments or loan payments so they don't have to lose vehicles. They have enough money for food and for clothing, those kind of things. So it's not a ton, but it's hopefully enough to keep you going with the big expenses you have in life. So here's what we have. In Wisconsin, you can receive up to 40% of your yearly income, which is a max of $370 a week. So let's take a look and see what that looks like. Okay. So let's say that we make $50,000 a year. Well, let's see here. We'll say 40,000. So that'd be 10,000 a quarter. Put these in. Calculate that. Now they max you out at $370 a week. So let's pull up a calculator here. 370 times 52. So you can only make 40%. So instead of making $50,000 a year, you're only making $19,000, which isn't a lot, but it does pay for some things. For example, I make somewhere around $50,000 a year. I don't remember right now, but the mortgage for our house is about $1,000 a month. Well, this would pay for my mortgage and it would help pay for, some food and things for me. So I could keep going living for a while until I find a new job. And that's the whole idea behind unemployment, is to keep people in a place where they can survive. So you get up to 40%. If you make a lot of money, you'll probably get less than 40% of your income. But here's the kicker, and this is what people don't understand. A lot of people are really against unemployment benefits. They feel that people just feed off the system. They don't want to work. They're not willing to work, things like that. And sometimes that's true, but it is limited. In Wisconsin, you only get 26 weeks of unemployment. That's 6 months. So you only have up to 6 months, and then it's cut off. Now there's certain situations where it can extend up to 86 weeks, so up to a year and a half. Minnesota had one though, for example, with mining. They outlawed certain types of mining, and so they gave bigger unemployment benefits to people who were in those categories. So it's not something where you can just sit at home forever and do nothing. There are rules to it. And here are the rules. There's 4 that we're going to look at. Number 1, you must work in at least 6 of the last 12 months. Working. No, work. So, I got 2 ins. I can't just, sit here and say, okay, well, I'm going to work for 3 months and I'm going to be unemployed for 6. That's not how it works. In the last year, you had to have worked at least 6 months of it. Number 2, unemployment cannot be your choice. If I leave a job to go find another one, I'm not going to get government benefits because I'm choosing to leave that job. So I can't choose to be unemployed. It has to be something that's happened to me. Third, I need to file the correct paperwork. So there's certain forms or online documents I need to turn in. And lastly, I need to be actively seeking employment. I need to be looking for a job. And a lot of times you need proof of that. You need to turn in examples of applications or job interviews or something like that. If you're not doing these 4 things, you're probably not going to receive unemployment. So that's what we see. I will say this. Let me add this in here. Another category, and we talked about it briefly, not in the labor force. And this is when a person is not working, a person is choosing not to work, and they will not receive unemployment benefits. Examples of this could be going to college, stay-at-home parents, and people who are retired. So that's a whole different category altogether, and it's one where you're not going to receive unemployment benefits. So to recap, if you're 16 or older, willing to work, looking for a job but can't find one, you're considered unemployed. We want low unemployment. We don't want a lot of people who can't find jobs, obviously. There's 3 different types of unemployment and why you're unemployed, which you'll be working with these in the future. The government does different things to try to help with unemployment, and some people like that and some people don't. And in Wisconsin, you can only receive 40% of your salary up to, it's limited, and you have to show that you're trying to find a job. So this is what we have. There'll be a few things coming up here, some quizzes and other things to test out how much you know about unemployment, and then the assignment sheet, which will be graded. So if you have any questions, feel free to let your teacher know, and we'll go from there. Have a great day, everybody.